Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine, and in this video I'm going to share a few principles and concepts that we as educators can use in developing our learning resources. So we have to remember that learning resources includes videos, PPTs, worksheets, and even workbooks and any other materials that we develop and give to our students to help our students achieve the learning outcomes. Especially at this time when we are expecting a lot of major changes on education, we as educators, we need to keep pace so that we remain relevant and be effective educators. So thus in this video, I'm going to share a few principles and tips specifically for creating effective videos. So I will anchor my presentation on the cognitive theory of multimedia learning according to the cognitive psychologist Richard Mayer. So simply put, the theory states that we as humans, we learn best when we are presented with an information that is a combination of spoken text or printed text and pictures as compared to information presented in text alone. So this theory has a big implication in how we design our learning resources. Okay, so further, the cognitive theory has three major assumptions. So the first assumption is the dual channel assumption, which states that we humans possess separate channels for processing visual and auditory information. So as you can see in the diagram, given the multimedia presentation, which consists of words and pictures, these are processed through our sensory information using the ears and the eye sensor respectively. Then it goes through the working memory, where the information received by the sensory memory are selected and organized in integration with the prior knowledge that is saved in the long-term memory. Okay, so the next assumption of the theory is the limited capacity assumption. This states that we humans, we have a limit as to the amount of information that we can process at any given point of time. So this is a very big implication to us as educators because it means that we need to be careful in designing our learning resources and any materials that we give to our students to make sure that we do not overwhelm our students with so much information at a time. Okay. Then the third assumption is the activity processing assumption. This assumption asserts that we humans, we just don't learn passively by absorbing information simply. Instead, we engage in active cognitive processes. Mainly, we do selecting, we do organizations of the information that we received in our mind. Okay? So this cognitive theory will be our basis in identifying or in our discussion of the different principles that will have an impact on how we design our learning resources. Okay, then, so by understanding the concept how our brain processes information, we can then conclude that we need to include multimedia resources in presenting information to our students. So therefore, it means that we need to use a combination of text and pictures and videos and other multimedia to increase the level of learning of our students. However, by doing so, we need to we need to put into consideration that we need to reduce the cognitive load. So what is cognitive load? Cognitive load refers to the reduction of extraneous, irrelevant, and unnecessary information that we present to that we include in our multimedia resources and only consider the essential and important content. Okay, so now we're going to proceed to the Mayer's principles of multimedia design. So actually there are 12 principles, but we're just going to discuss a few of the principles in this video. Okay, so the first principle is the Coherence Principle. So which states that people learn better when extraneous materials excluded rather than included. As an example of the principles, I have your slide. I have here which is a lot of unnecessary text, unnecessary image, and unnecessary shapes. So to apply the principle, we're going to remove the unnecessary content and we'll just have the essential one. So we remove the text and then we remove the unnecessary images that doesn't have direct impact to the content. Also, in addition, do not include unnecessary music and use only simple visuals. Okay, so the next principle is the segmenting principle, which states that people learn better when a multimedia message is presented in user-paced segments rather than a continuous unit. So in other words, we have to break down our content or information into smaller bits or smaller chunks of information because it has the length of our videos has a direct impact to the student engagement. As you can see in the graph, videos that are from 0 to 6 minutes in length has 100% of student engagement, and as the video length increases, the engagement also drastically goes down. Okay, so as an example to this principle, so for example, you have a chapter which obviously has a lot of subtopics within it. You have to break down the topics into smaller chunks, such as this. So these are the 4 subtopics on this particular chapter, and make corresponding lecture videos for each chapter. Okay, so the next principle is the Multimedia Principle, which states that people learn better from words and pictures than from words alone. Okay, so basically it speaks of the cognitive theory itself. Okay, so let's have an example for this. Okay, so for example, given this particular slide, which contains only pure text to present the information on this particular topic, so by applying the principle, what we can do to apply the principle is to add some images and pictures to present our information, such as this. Okay, also this one, instead of simply presenting the information in this manner, so you can see here sequential execution, so we added some images and graphics to present our information much clearer to our students. Okay, so the next principle is the signaling principle, which states that people learn better when cues that highlight the organization of the essential material are added. So I'll show you an example for how to implement signaling principle. Okay, so in this example, so you can see if you're going to present this particular building blocks of programs, and there are different kinds of building blocks, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. To apply signaling, you can use arrows to signify at which point of the topic you are discussing. You can also use, especially if you're using PowerPoint, you can use the pointer options like this to signal or to point at which particular item you are discussing. And you can also write some notes here and do some signals during your discussion. Okay, so the last principle that we're going to discuss is the personalization principle. So we want our videos to be very personalized and to give that feeling of the students that we are communicating to them directly. So to do that, we can communicate them through conversational style rather than a very formal style. So we can do that by using the first and second person, like the I or the we or the our or our. So by doing this one, we help or we assist the students in making their experience in watching our videos more personalized and more interesting. Okay, so if you want to study further on the different principles of multimedia design, you can check out the links at the end of my presentation. So the takeaways for my presentation: number 1, human mind is dual channel, it has limited capacity, and we use an active processing system. So what's the implication of this one to us as educators? It means that we should manage our learners' essential processing, we should optimize their generative processing, and of course, it's important to us that we should minimize the extraneous processing by developing or creating effective multimedia presentations. Okay, so to summarize the tips, number 1, you can make your presentation simple, clear, yet interesting. You can use canva.com, you can use Adobe Spark, or even you can use PowerPoint. Number two, don't just read the PPTs or the PDF. Especially the PDF, wherein you cannot do any animation and you're presenting the content at one time, it would not help into as to the learning of our students. Number three, for practical courses, actual coding or how it is done must be shown. So just a quick example for this. Okay, most especially for programming courses and some other practical courses, instead of reading the code, so let's say, for example, you say name equal to input and like this and so on and so forth, and you have here an out what's expected out of this code, the best way to do this one to help our students understand is, of course, to show the actual how it is done or how the program is going to be run. Okay, so such as this. So we're going to show the students how it's going to be how the code is going to be executed and how it's going to be run, so that the students will have an idea on what is really the expected output of the program instead of just reading the code from the presentation. So this is one very important thing that we have to consider. So you can use screencast for this one and some other screen capture tools. Okay, then make short videos with one takeaway each, a maximum of 10 minutes or less, it's better. And lastly, aim for good quality output. Okay, so these are the references for my presentation. And that's it. And this is Jasmine. Thank you very much.